There, I unmuted you.
How
Hello.
are you? How is
I'm good.
everyone?
I'm super excited to have you with us today because, like I
I
said,
am,
I haven't talked to anyone at Miami-Dade forever.
I am super excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Well, I want to say one other thing before we get into this. In the last hour, I talked about hybrid logistics and how everybody gets all organized. And I wanted to mention that a part of hybrid logistics is the badging portion for all our listeners right now. Every sequence of personalized learning obviously should end with a badge. And kids love badges. Kids love to trade stickers, right? Digital stickers. They send stickers around to each other all the time, also known as emojis, right? People love that. Okay, so I'm gonna have you share screen if you want to, Stephanie.
I do. I have a
You
presentation.
do?
I haven't used GoTo training in a while, so if you could just direct me into where the share screen button is.
Okay, good. I have to make you presenter. Three, two,
Oh,
one.
perfect.
Okay, you are the presenter. Woo!
There we
Yeah, and
go.
I'm super excited to know what's going on over there because like I said, I haven't talked to anybody in Miami-Dade for a long time. So, okay, we see your screen connected through distance. It's beautiful.
Perfect.
You're a
Thank
beautiful
you.
PowerPoint artist.
Thank
Um,
you. I have to be a little honest. I was reading some work by Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and he's actually gone away from PowerPoint.
yeah, I've seen teachers do go away from that. What is the new one? There's another one.
Well, there's a sway, which is something
Yeah.
similar, but actually in the corporate, they're starting to go back to really a front loading type of meeting, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about that today and how
Okay.
I've seen it be successful with my team.
Okay, good. Well, I'm turning it over to you. I'll keep myself on mute, but I'll let you know if questions come up, okay?
Okay, perfect. So
Okay.
first of all, I want to thank everyone that's here today and for taking your time to be here. I am from Miami-Dade. I do have to let you know the presentation, of course, is reflective of me and my practices and the things that I've implemented, not necessarily on behalf of our district. But we're going to be talking a little bit today about being connected through a distance. For most of us, when we went into the COVID mayhem of March, we were all in the education world kind of left thinking, how do we do this? By nature, we are used to hugging children at the elementary level and making those human connections. So it really took a lot of planning and pivoting to end up where we are today, which for some counties in Florida is a full face-to-face, a hybrid, and even some dual modality. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to stay connected through a distance and what are some of the organizational things that I put into place with my team. I am an ESC director. I oversee a program specialist, or it might be considered a case coordinator in some other counties. But what I do is I work at an elementary school and I oversee about 20 staff members that are inclusive of ESC teachers and district assigned SLPs and occupational therapists. So I want to start off with this quote that actually came from a poem that was written by Damien Barr in April. And it reads, "We are not all in the same boat. We are all in the same storm. Some are on super yachts, and some have just the one oar." And when I read this back in April, it really resonated with me because although we're all going through COVID and we're all learning the new normal, no two families are experiencing it exactly the same way. So I do work in a Title I school, but we still have families because of the neighborhood that we're in that are very affluent. So we had families that were taking this as an opportunity to spend time together. We were taking this as an opportunity to learn from one another, to really get to connect with their children on a different level. And we had families that were really struggling, where one or both incomes were lost, where students were without food. And it really put into perspective that as educators and as leaders, we really need to be aware of where our team members and our students are at and what we can do to support them. Because not every teacher and not every student was going to require that same support throughout the pandemic. These are kind of some lessons that I learned with my team through the pandemic. Now that we're looking at this in retrospect and we're back live in schools, one of those lessons is that the human instinct is to really connect and interact. So we really had to learn to utilize platforms, applications, portfolios, Kahoots, Flipgrids to make that connection and that education interact and make it useful to all parties involved. I think the second lesson we learned is that a pandemic is uncharted waters, but no matter what your role is, your team is still going to expect you to lead, and they're still going to expect you to have those answers and to be ready to support them. So you've got to have an answer ready, which leads me to lesson 3. Don't be afraid to make those executive decisions. We are writing the rules for a pandemic. We were faced with many things. IDA law was not written for a pandemic, for example. So we had to figure out how are we going to provide those services and how are we going to organize those services and how are we going to make sure that our families and our teachers felt supported. Which leads me to lesson 4. You need to have a plan. Even if it's an ever evolving plan, we need to have a plan in place that we say, okay, we're working on this. I'm sorry, I just realized I have a misprint in the word plan. I'll correct that before I send it out. But we need to make sure that we have a plan. Even if it's a plan that we have to deviate from, we want our students, our teachers, and our families to know that we're working to help them meet their goals. And lesson 5, which was most important, was to really be available. There's a lot of talk about self-care and taking care of each other, but we also need to learn and as leaders still be available to our team and our staff. Be the solution. One of the things that I really noticed happening during the pandemic back in March was that people were kind of afraid to make a suggestion, afraid that it wouldn't be the right idea. And it's really just so important to have ideas. Sometimes the best ideas stem from ideas that were brought up in a different light. Call a colleague. For those of you that are familiar with Miami-Dade, we're the 4th largest school district in the nation, and our region spread from as south as Homestead to as close to one street dividing us from Broward County. So we have a wide spectrum of support, and sometimes it's just picking up that phone, calling that colleague, and most importantly, asking questions. So many times I tell my team, I am not the end all say all, and if you have a question, somebody else on the team has a question, or because you're the person implementing, not the person organizing or giving the ideas, you may approach a better way of doing it. So for those of you that are not in leadership roles or that are in leadership roles that require you to work with other leaders, it's extremely important that don't be shy about asking those questions, because that's where we build on and we're able to go to the next level for what our students and staff need. Technology. So technology's come a long way, and I think that at the end of this pandemic, we're all gonna feel like we are part-time IT tech. I know that one of the things that has helped us a lot was Class Dojo. As a PBIS school, we had already identified Class Dojo as our school-wide platform because it allows parents to access information. It remains safe. It's only open to your school. It allows teachers to create portfolios where students can submit assignments. This was a big way that we were able to communicate with our families because they see all the different teachers. It's almost, think of it as like an Instagram or a Twitter account, but only for the people that pertain to your school setting. Another big technology aspect that we utilized was Calendly, and it's supported through Microsoft Teams, through Zoom, and through Office 365. So you may already have access to it and not even be aware. This worked out great because it allowed my ESE team teachers to go in and view the master calendar that I had created as far as availability for meetings, and they were able to see. We were used to working off of a large paper calendar that would be hanging in the ESE office about 3 months in advance, and teachers would come in and see all the rooms available, the meetings available, the LEAs available, and they would schedule. But now all of a sudden, we didn't have access to that. So having Calendly really allowed us to open up our eyes and schedule virtually without them having to maybe contact me, wait for me to respond. By the time that I respond to them, somebody else wanted the same date. So that helps us a lot, and it sends the organizer of the event, which in this case is myself, an email. And then you can also pull a report that tells you all the meetings that have been scheduled. And then I use that information to go in and set up the Zoom accounts and identify the appropriate personnel that needs to be there. Now, we also utilize Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, depending on the teacher's preference during the spring. When we came back in October, we mainstreamed in the district to Zoom and Microsoft Teams. For our IEP meetings, we're using Zoom Enterprise, which is the edition that allows for, additional safety, securities, and measures. The most appropriate thing about technology is that you really have to find the technology that meets your needs. The great thing about technology is there's an app for everyone and an app for everything. So it's not just a matter of finding the best app, but it's about finding the technology that best supports you and your team and the needs of those around you. Which leads me to a quote that we have here from Steve Jobs. And it's not the tools you have faith in. Tools are just tools. They work or they don't. It's the people you have faith in or not. And I think that this is so important to keep in mind, because really when we pivoted to online learning across the nation, we didn't trust the textbook and we didn't trust the platform. We trusted the person that was organizing that, and those were our teachers and our support personnel. And those are the ways that we were able to organize our meetings with our parents and really make sure that our parents felt supported and assisted during this time. Now we're going to talk a little bit about making those virtual connections. When you're a leader and your team is now spread out across a bunch of little Zoom screens on your computer, how do you make yourself available, and how do you make those connections feel like you're back in the school site? So one of the most important things was that I surveyed my team. I created a Google form and I asked them, what type of support do you need? Are you the person that's navigating the storm on the yacht and you don't really need any supports because you understand the tech and you understand all the apps? Or are you that person that feels like you're swimming with one oar because technology is not your thing and you're super scared? And I really asked them, what do you need? If I was going to come in and I was going to support you, what would that support look like? And that really helped them feel like they had that ongoing support from me as a leader, without necessarily everyone having to sit through my support as I felt that they needed. Another thing that's been really important is making informational drop-in sessions. This is something that I really tried to do throughout the whole time, and I still do. And I'll say, I'm sending out the Zoom information. I'm going to be available, this Thursday from 3 to 4 or 9 to 11. And if you have any questions about any of the things that we're doing or that's being requested of us to do, or the way meetings are going to run, or how you're going to reach parents or attendance issues, I'm going to be available. And it really makes it a relaxed opportunity for them to come in, get the information that they need without feeling like, oh, I'm going to send an email. I have to wait for somebody to respond to my email. I need the answer right away. And a little bit earlier, I mentioned the idea of corporate America starting to go away from the PowerPoint presentation and starting to kind of go back to what we consider front loading as an accommodation. And one of our teachers were Zooming day in and day out. And the last thing you've done after you've Zoomed the whole day is want to sit through a Zoom and listen to what somebody else has to say about what you need to do or what needs to be corrected or what the next initiative is from the county or within the school. So one of the things that I started doing is I would send an email and I would say, okay, here's the agenda for the meeting. Here are the key talking points. Review it so that when we come to the meeting, you're not sitting there all of a sudden seeing an agenda and thinking, oh my God, how is this going to affect me? Or how is this going to work? You've already had a chance to process it. And what you're really coming with now is to say, like, I get this. This is something that I can do. Or, you know what, this is not going to be working in my classroom, or this is not going to be conducive, or we need more support. That helped us a lot in, I felt, taking the stress away from the teachers of unnecessary meetings and meetings to say, I'm here, if you need me, I'm available to be checked in. So I think that that was a really key part of giving our staff the opportunity that they needed to really move forward and navigate the pandemic while remaining compliant and organized. One of the other things that we did, this is actually a draft, was we created an action plan. Now, a lot of times we know from our school improvement plans and those types of things that we create these action plans. They're pages and pages long, and not the whole organization is sitting back and reading them. So again, this is the reason it has a draft watermark, is because this is one of the things that I went forward and I said, okay, these are going to be some goals. These are the things that we need to complete before the end of the year. Let's go ahead. I'm going to send this out to you. Review it. We're going to have a quick meeting to just kind of discuss, is this something that you can implement? Is this something that needs to be adjusted? And we were able to seal it and call it a date and move forward with our action plan without necessarily dragging everyone through a long dispute or discussion about how we were going to do these things. And then again, you'll see here where it says meetings must be posted to Calendly under follow-up, the second box. That was my direct link to the Calendly that I mentioned earlier about how we can support and schedule virtual meetings in our new virtual society. That pretty much sums up how we stayed organized and how we met the needs of our team during COVID and how we're continuing to meet the needs of our team during COVID. I've included my Twitter account. If you have any additional questions that maybe don't get to get answered today, but you want to bring them up, you can feel free to reach out for me through there. And then the hashtag ESE Squad is kind of how we brand ourselves on Twitter. So if you're looking to see what our teachers are doing and what our team is doing, feel free to reach out and just follow us or let us know if you have any questions or any ideas for us. We're always looking for new ways to be innovative. So thank you so much. I'm going to stay on if there's any questions that came up or anything like that. I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, well, this was awesome. I'm super excited about the work that you're doing. And I think that what you're saying is it all boils down to being organized. I mean, you really have to look at how the user experience is going for the students and making sure that you're not having a different one on, every teacher's doing everything differently. And there's, 6,700 things to remember of, well, where's what and how that's all working. I think it's brilliant, and it's missing in a lot of places. So what have you seen in terms of what the students are saying back to you?
We're at the elementary level, and overall, our students in the spring, we're loving the whole technology thing, because as the little ones, I think that technology is something that teachers fear, because you don't want to ask a bunch of 5-year-olds to bring their iPad or their tablet to school. So I think at the beginning, the novelty of learning technology was extremely exciting for them. And then I think that as they went through, and by the time they came back to face-to-face in the fall now, they were extremely excited to see their teachers and get back to a little bit of like traditional type of schooling. I have a daughter that's 8 and she's in 3rd grade, and she was like, "Mommy, I love the computer, but I'm so ready to go back to school and see my friends and write in my journal and do my like 1st and 2nd grade types of things." So I think that overall the novelty for the kids did wear off, and that they're excited to be back in the building.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people are excited to be together again. I would be excited to be together with people too.
Yeah, our teachers too. Our teachers and our team was excited to be able to come back into the building. At my particular school, we are all working from the building, even if you're teaching virtually. So it's nice to walk through the halls and see the familiar faces and just a quick touch in with people, which is why I think the drop-in sessions were so important, because at least I run an open door policy. So as long as I'm not conducting an IEP meeting or meeting with a parent, anyone can pretty much walk into my office at any time. So I think that having the drop-in days was a great way to mimic that and just kind of give people that ease of like there's support out there and it's available to me.
Yeah. Now I'm checking for questions here coming in. Michael Randolph, I think you made a comment. I'm going to make sure you can unmute yourself, Michael.
I do see some of the questions coming.
Yeah. Michael, if you want to make a comment, please do. And then go ahead. Michael, you're unmuted.
He had typed something into the chat box. He had said,
Yeah.
"Thank you for the opportunity to learn and grow." I'm not sure if he had a follow-up.
Okay, good. And then, Michael, if you want to speak up, you can. And then I'm going to go unmute Tim Beekman. Tim, you can unmute. I'm not sure whose mic that is that's unmuted. Tim, I think you're unmuted, but I'm not sure. Someone is unmuted.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Ireda, is that you? Yeah, it looks like Ireda is Ireda Morris is unmuted from Mescuela. I'm gonna mute you because it's giving us background noise. So I see there's a question that's come in, making sure I can get to it. How did the parents feel about students going back to school?
In our county, we are operating under a parent choice. So parents who wanted to return face-to-face, there was a 5-day-a-week option for face-to-face, and parents who felt more comfortable for family dynamics or for health reasons or just overall safety do have the option to remain as a Miami-Dade County Public School registered student in an online learning through their homeschool. So for example, we have about 2 classes per grade level that are fully online being taught by one of our teachers. The parents overall were very 50-50 in their desire to return, and they were very adamant in either it's completely safe and I'm looking for them to go back, or we're absolutely not on board yet due to family reasons, due to caring for an elderly person in the home, and we want to keep them at home. But for the most part, they've been very, very supportive, and they've also had an opportunity to make a choice, a swap in their decision. So if a parent started face-to-face and wanted to switch back to online, that was an option. Or if they've been online and they like the procedures and protocols, they've been able to go back to face-to-face. But overall, our parents have just been extremely, extremely supportive in everything. And I think the fact that we've made them feel involved in the decisions and we've kept them abreast of what's going on has really helped with that.
That's great, great. Okay, so we have quite a few attendees on right now. I'm gonna I don't know if unmute all is working or not because it hasn't worked in some of the webinars. So if you want to raise your hand, attendees, there's a little hand symbol that you can, next to your name, that you can raise your hand so I know that you want to be unmuted. Otherwise, for some reason, my unmute all doesn't work, even though I took back presenter status. So I'm waiting for you to raise your hand so you can ask a question. If you don't, I'm going to ask another one myself. But I'm watching to see if you raise hands. Looks like we have a lot of different districts. Some of them are Florida districts. Some of them are from far away in other states. Like we even have people here from Colorado this time. All right, so the thing I want to ask you is that have you been sort of coordinating with other schools in Miami-Dade, and what are you seeing happening in the other schools?
Coordinating in the sense of like our organization patterns?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we are a big district, so we do get a lot of district-wide support. Like the decision to purchase the Zoom Enterprise and to use Microsoft Teams as a primary mode of communication and platform, those were district-wide choices. I have had the opportunity to sit on committees. So really, because we are so large, what we try to do is give like a framework and then allow schools to use that framework to meet the needs of their students. So for example, like I mentioned that we're a Title I school, we gave out through district laptop distribution a lot more laptops than maybe a school in a more affluent area. So we had to do a few more drop-in days and a little bit more like IT tech training. The district also set up a helpline, which was 305-995-HELP, and parents could call in every day from 8 to 4 with any questions about logging in or accessing devices or anything like that. So there's definitely a lot of collaboration across the district, and that is organized at the district level.
That's awesome. Okay, so then we have a question from Michael Randolph. How are you handling students who are struggling virtually? Are you recommending they return to campus?
Because the parents have a choice, we haven't wanted to infringe on their actual options. What we have done is we are continuing to provide interventions and those types of support services through the virtual learning. We've also have in our school, we call it our student support team, but we have a team of counselors and paraprofessionals and office staff that if a teacher messages them like, hey, Johnny's not signed in yet, they'll reach out and they'll call mom and they'll say, hey, you know, the teacher's waiting for him. We really need to get him logged in. He hasn't logged in today. Remember, attendance is still being counted. Whether virtual or in person, we're still following our district truancy policy. So it's really just a matter of building those relationships with parents and letting them know, like, we're expecting you to be here. So academically, like I said, RTI is still taking place, interventions, differentiated instructions. All of our paraprofessionals have been trained on the use of breakout rooms and supporting teachers in a virtual setting.
Okay, good. And then what are you doing, if there's anything specific, just to create student-to-student community?
Within the classroom, we've actually used a lot of app-based games, like through Kahoot, through, again, breakout rooms. We might say, like, you know, after we read a story, we'll put the kids into breakout rooms and they'll have to go through and answer their questions or come up with questions about the story. So they're still getting that social emotional connection of practicing, of cooperating without being next to each other. And in the classrooms, for those that have returned face-to-face, we still have to follow the 3 foot, 3 feet recommendation from the CDC. So they're not really doing cooperative learning either. So we've done a lot of things to implement, like jump around reading and things that require them to work as a team without being within close proximity to one another.
Okay. Tim Beekman, you're unmuted on my side if you want to unmute on your side and ask your question.
Yeah, my question was, do you have librarians in the district? And if you do, what are their roles now with the dynamic shift in your delivery and options?
We do have librarians and media specialists throughout our district. Our library happens to be closed because the carpeting doesn't allow for students to be in and out. So right now, our media specialist is providing support to some of our classes, some virtual, some face-to-face. And our media specialist also happens to be gifted certified. So she's picked up a part-time gifted course for the virtual setting. All the principals were advised that they could utilize any type of support personnel in the school to assist with implementing either face-to-face or virtual. So although I'm an LEA and I'm typically fully released, I do go in and support our I&D classes so that teachers can take their lunch break and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anything else that you want to add with regards to sort of where you see all of this going? What is sort of your projection into the future?
That as much as everybody wants to get back to face-to-face, I think that we've learned that for a lot of parents, having the virtual aspect, especially for meetings, has been very convenient. Because if you work, especially in Miami with the traffic, you work 30, 40 minutes away from the school and you're called in for a parent conference or an annual 504 meeting or an annual IEP meeting, you're looking at having to take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours off from work. So a lot of our parents have requested or have mentioned, is there any way that we can keep certain meetings virtual going forward? I think it's really going to change the dynamics as far as parent involvement and not necessarily having to see that person face to face for them to feel involved. A great idea that I saw somebody share on a social media outlet was that since volunteers can't come into the school, every Friday the class has a surprise reader, and it's usually a parent, but the kids don't know who it is until the teacher zooms them into the classroom. So I think that things like that are going to become more of a norm in our society, and parents are going to start asking and expecting for us to have multiple platforms to communicate with them.
Yeah, I love that. That's just it's an amazing thing. It's also sort of amazing that more schools haven't thought about the impact on the, somebody having to take 4 hours off from work. That's just,
and when you work in a service industry, I mean, if you're a professional, you might have a little bit more leeway and your boss might understand. But a lot of our parents work in the service industry and they can't, and if they take off 4 hours, they're going to be docked 4 hours.
Yeah. So this is an amazing, new sort of component. I love that you're doing that, and I hope you do it forever. Well, thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure to be here. I want to thank everyone that attended, and like I said, my Twitter account was there. It's @Acosta Castro 10. If you think of any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, we're good having you. Hope I get to meet you in person next time we come to Florida in person. Yeah, thank you so much.
Scholastic Literacy Pro is a blended reading solution for grades K through 6 that provides educators a single tool to monitor student reading activity, comprehension, and progress. With 3 built-in assessments evaluating students' reading readiness, reading level, and comprehension, Literacy Pro provides real-time data and robust reports to help inform instruction in a meaningful way.
Welcome to Literacy Pro. First, you'll identify lowercase letters.
For emerging readers, the Scholastic Reading Readiness Assessment determines mastery of foundational skills. It informs teachers about their early learners' reading abilities across alphabet recognition, phonemic awareness, syllabication, blending, and decoding. The results from Scholastic Reading Readiness will help teachers determine which students may need additional support in selecting independent reading books. For students who have already mastered foundational reading, Literacy Pro includes the Scholastic Reading Measure, which provides a valid and reliable Lexile measure. In this adaptive assessment, students are asked to read passages and answer text-based multiple-choice questions that show comprehension. Teachers can assign the Scholastic Reading Measure multiple times a year to monitor progress. At the end of the reading measure, students see their Lexile, and educators can see a roll-up of all their students' Lexiles as well as their growth over time. Literacy Pro also allows teachers to track both guided reading and Lexile levels for every student, supporting either instructional approach. Teachers can always use the data provided to confer with students and communicate with families about their child's progress. The final assessment in Literacy Pro are Think More comprehension checks. Think Mores are text-based quizzes that students complete after they read any ebook or the thousands of paperback books that have connections within Literacy Pro. Think Mores for Spanish language books are available in Spanish as well. During a Think More quiz, students are encouraged to return to the text for evidence. They can view their answers and misconceptions immediately and choose to retake the quiz with a different set of questions. Think Mores provide valuable insight into whether students are comprehending what they read and provide detailed data on 10 higher-order thinking skills. Teachers can view every single question the student answered along with their misconceptions. Scholastic Literacy Pro's assessments were designed with the student in mind, while providing educators essential, authentic data to better inform their daily instruction.